Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and we are here to talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written in the 6th century BC, presumably by a guy Lao Tzu, filled with all sorts of enigmatic wisdom and text on how we might live a more reasonable life. When I talk about living a reasonable life, I'm always talking about the idea that we're trying to live a life in which we're not asking other things to change for us. We accept things as they are. We do not submit to abuse. We do not submit to changing for other people. And they don't have to submit to changing to us. We get to be who we are. We get to embrace who we are. And while we do that, life is easy. We get to really allow things to be as they are. We don't have to change them, you know. So today is our first Newbie Tuesday. I'll be talking about this a little bit today so that everybody that comes through can understand what that is. I usually have a cue, I don't usually actually have a queue. I mean, I have people that come up, but sometimes more than one person comes up, and if you come up, and you'll have to wait for me to talk to the people that are in line. Today, anybody new coming up, anybody that I think is new, because sometimes I've talked to people years ago and I don't recall. They get precedent. So, if I am talking to people and there's a couple other people that are in the queue, and you pop up and you're new, you're going to be able to come right to the front of the line and, chat with me immediately and get your number for Tao of the Day. The reason I'm doing that is just to encourage new people that have been listening to me for a while to come up and chat and have an experience with Tao of the Day. Tao of the Day is what we do is we kind of just introduce ourselves, kind of see where you're at, what's going on in your life, and then I'll ask you to pick a number. You don't have to know anything about the Tao Te Ching. We'll go through all that together. Sometimes it can be a really difficult thing to have someone read something to you, especially these riddles of the Tao. So I just ask that you tell me what stood out to you. So if there is a line or a text or a word or something that stood out specifically, strongly for you, I just ask that you tell me what that is. And that combined with our baseline, our little initial conversation, or hello, what's going on? You know, what is happening in your life? What's exciting? What's changing? Then we would match those together, and we can see where one thing leads into the other, where the magic of the Tao Te Ching lies, and how we can unlock it so that we can change the way change the way we perceive the world around us. Maybe we change the way we perceive our quote unquote problems. And I put those in quotes because, as the Tao says, life is not without its problems. So problems turn out to be no problem at all. I mean, if you knew that problems were going to exist, well then would they be problems? Or would they just be things that are happening? You know, the idea of a problem is about framing. You know, you can have a problem that's somebody else with somebody else. You can have a problem that they're saying or doing a thing that you don't want them to say or do. You can have a problem with the weather. You can have a problem with the government. You can have problems with all sorts of things. But the thing is as you are having those problems, those things are existing independently. And it's not as if you get to change everything in the world. You can change how you respond to it. You don't have to submit to the idea that these things are have any dominion over you, have any power over you at all. So they're not really problems. And if you can embrace the idea that, well, there are no problems. This is just something I will solve. This is something that I might have to adjust so that I can live my life in the way that I need to, right? So as some people want to, look at pronouns and other things like that, that's fine. You want me to call you he, she, they, them, him, her, whatever. All of those things, that's all great. That's not, like, the more energy I spend at trying to use a pronoun I want to use versus, now I don't have to submit to that, but that's asking somebody else to change. I can just say what needs to be said and move on. It doesn't, and if I don't want to do that, I don't have to. And if there's resistance, then I'm the one, is this, when we start talking about conflict, is this me inviting people to conflict? Let's look at that verse really quick, because I know we talked about conflict recently. But I want to look at an invitation to conflict, which is number 69. I think you read that recently. Not this week, though. So I want to look at number 69, an invitation to conflict. And this is a wonderful verse that can point to other people that you can be inviting to conflict with, or yourself. Because you can conflict with anything. I was talking to someone, maybe this was yesterday, I was talking to a friend of mine from the climbing gym. She visited her family in Massachusetts recently, and it was difficult for her. And we talked about this verse specifically. We talked about the idea of, you're having an invitation to conflict, one with yourself and one with your family. And you're going to have to really look at these invitations and where you want to relinquish space rather than claim it, right? Rather than coming in and saying, I want to claim this space, right? Someone says, hey, these are the pronouns I want to use. Well, you could be obtuse and say, those are the pronouns you want to use, and I will actively not use them. I'm going to use pronouns anyway. What's it matter, right? What's it matter what pronoun I use to talk about you? I know how to use pronouns. I can use whatever pronoun. And what does it take for me to change? Maybe it takes a couple weeks at best. But if there is a genuine attempt to use the correct pronoun, the only reason I'm using the pronoun that I use is because of habit. Right? I remember there were times when I worked at a grocery store and my back would be turned and someone would call me she, her, or they would address me as a woman, excuse me, ma'am, or miss, or whatever. And I wouldn't even correct them. Who cares? For me, who cares? Right? Sometimes they would apologize, but it wouldn't be necessary because that doesn't mean anything to me. Now, do I think that it shouldn't mean anything to anybody? No, not at all. I'm just saying didn't mean anything to me, so it was no skin off my back to be called a specific pronoun. Now, if I have a conflict with that idea, right, if I have a conflict in my mind about the idea of, using a pronoun that doesn't fit my expectation or using a pronoun that doesn't fit my previous use of the pronoun in my mind or whatever. This is conflict that I'm bringing out into the world. This is something that I'm bringing out into the world. I said, no, you can't do that. You can't ask me to do this thing. It's well, I can. You don't have to, but I can. Just like you can ask me, like I was talking about with the groundhog, the groundhog that was, digging up under my house. Perfectly within its right to do that. I don't want it to do that, but it's perfectly within its right to do that. So when I talk about this verse 69, an invitation to conflict, what we're talking about, in conflict, the master will never host aggression. If you have a demand of somebody, especially when it's something so minuscule as a pronoun, right? It's like you're hosting aggression. You're the host. They're saying, hey, could you do this little thing? And you can say no. But what is it? Why can't you? Like, is there something preventing you from doing that? Or is it just your nature to just not want to do that? And again, there are going to be points where you're going to be like, nah, I'm just going to walk away from this. And it's always best, when you are faced with any sort of ultimatum, to be able to walk away, and understand what the point is of your conflict. If you're going to be hosting aggression in some way, it's good to know what the point is of that. Why are you hosting this aggression? Why are you doing this? Is there a bigger reason, or are you just trying to be heard? Are you just trying to have your voice heard? Are you just trying to be right? It's interesting that I'm talking about this. I don't know why I'm talking about this morning. Yesterday, the U.S. played Belgium and lost. And I was really happy that they lost because of everything that happened with the striker and the red card. You guys might not know about this, but it is corruption at the FIFA level, and one that may have had something to do with Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump doesn't have any integrity. FIFA doesn't have any integrity. We've learned that Mauricio Pochettino doesn't have any integrity, and Balogun, the guy who got the red card, has no integrity. So, and this is the thing, like, when we talk about aggression, what is aggression? And in this case, right, the aggression was this sporting body, FIFA, changing the rules for the U.S. for no reason. And everybody else just has to eat it. And everybody did. Everyone came out and said what they said. And gratefully, the tables were turned well enough that Belgium won the game decisively. It wasn't even in question. And that's good. That's good. And it says here, right, in conflict, the master will never host aggression. She would prefer to be a guest and relinquish space rather than claim it. And I think that's what Belgium did. They did speak up, and we relinquish space. When we're talking about pronouns and stuff, you relinquish space. You allow them, okay, you want me to use these pronouns for you? That's not too hard. I can do that. Whatever. Now I can say no. But if I'm going to say no, I need to be able to take a step back. I need to be able to take a step back and say, you should be able to go get what you want from other people. I'm not going to engage in that, and I can just step away from that relationship. I can step away from the thing because you have a request. I don't want to abide that request, but I can't say your request is unreasonable because I don't know. I don't have the same request, so I don't know what is reasonable for you. It's reasonable to have a request. It's not reasonable to demand that I abide that request. But it's also not reasonable for me to come out and say, well, I'm not going to abide it. I don't think anybody else should either. That's not reasonable. This is the thing. Once we start to conflict, we start to escalate. And these escalations, it's like I would rather quietly go about my business. Like I would have really, I would think I would have been proud to cheer on the U.S. if somebody in the line of command, in the chain of command, from the president to FIFA to the USMNT to Balogun himself, somebody were to say, I have integrity, and I'm not going to take the rule of law and say that it doesn't apply to me. If somebody were to have said that, that would have been, that I would have been happy to stand up and cheer on the U.S. But I couldn't because nobody showed me that they had enough integrity to stand firm and to say, no, this isn't fair, And if Balogun decided he wasn't going to play and he had to serve a suspension later on anyway, so be it. But it's all about, like having some integrity and being able to face that conflict and to be like, and if he were to, like, there was a conflict between the rules and FIFA, and who do you stand by? Do you stand by the organization that is obviously corrupt and is doing this thing? Like you're creating conflict between me and the rest of the world. The best thing to do is not host that aggression. I stand back, and you can have your decisions. You can do what you do. You can be corrupt, but I'm not going to fall in line. And if I don't fall in line, your corruption falls apart. Hey, Stephanie, how are you, my dear?
I'm fantastical. How are you?
I hear that. You are always fantastical. Does that ever change?
Oh, I could be grantabulous too.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that that's the case. It's nice to have you back. How's everything going? Now, I know, did you get a new wheelchair recently?
I'm about to.
You're about to, okay.
I'm about to get a power chair, thank God.
Thank God. Well, yeah, so you don't have to push yourself around?
Well, I don't need a wheelchair per se. I walk with a cane.
Oh, wonderful.
But outside I need a wheelchair because when I go long distances I get tired really quickly.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're getting that. And how long till you get that?
Well, I'm not sure particularly when I'm going to get it because we have to wait for them to run through the insurance first.
Yeah, that's always
It's a pain in the ass.
No, I don't. Yeah, I know it. That's okay. You're still. It's a fantabulous pain in the ass.
Yeah, it is. It really is. If I get it, I'm going to be so thrilled. I know when I get it, I'm going to be so thrilled.
There you go. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
But I was just wondering, what happened with the soccer thing?
Oh.
I wasn't aware of what happened.
So there's a rule that, and this is in every league in the world. When you get a red card, you are suspended for the next match.
Okay.
Now, a red card, if you don't know, is a very harsh, violent foul.
Oh.
And if you do, or it's two lighter fouls, right? So you get two yellows, make a red, or you get a red directly because it was egregious. Oh. Now, if you get a red and you might get a 3-game ban or a 1-game ban, and it will go to a governing body to judge how bad it was and whether or not. And they could reduce it from 3 to 1, and there's all of these sorts of ins and outs. But it has never been the case. I guess it did happen one time in the 60s, but it has never been the case, other than that one other time, where because there's no rule on rescinding a red card. So you can't take the red card back, because when you get a red card, you have to stop playing the game that you got the red card in and sit out, and you don't get to be replaced. So instead of having 11 people on the field, you have 10.
Oh,
and
wow.
then on top of that, so that you know the punishment is serious, you have to serve a ban on the next game. That your team still has 11 people on the pitch, but you can't be one of them.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that's the soccer rule, right? So that's one of the rules, and the striker for the U.S. got a red card, and it was not deliberate. It's debatable on if it's a red card or not. Okay. But there is no, and they have video assisted referees and stuff now. So there's really no way of rescinding the red card, of pulling the red card, because he's already played a man down. That team already played a man down, so you can't go back in time and change that. The red card exists. So you're going to have to serve that ban the next match. We could do other things, maybe, to apologize for that. Like, we can reduce the sentence, but if it's only a single match, it's only a single match. You can't go into that match. This has been going on in every soccer, even in the U.S. in MLS. This is the case. If you get a red card, you have to be suspended for the next match. Well, Donald Trump called FIFA, the president of Infantino, the president of FIFA, and apparently there was probably some pressure to remove the suspension, and that kid ended up playing Belgium yesterday, and then the U.S. lost 4-1. So I'm glad that was, that's well, when I was a kid, we called it cheaters proof.
Yes.
That's
freaking outstandingly, incredibly stupid that Trump did. I can't stand Trump.
Yeah. He's well within his right to do what he does, but as it trickles down, right? So he does what he does. He's perfectly within his right to do that. Fantino, in FIFA, they do what they do. They're perfectly within their right to do that. Pochettino, the manager, now that he knows he can put Balogun in, he does. Balogun, now that he knows he can go in, everybody's well within their right to do that. And I'm well within my right to cheer on Belgium. You know what I mean? I'm well within my right. Even, it's hard for me to be a fan of, this sort of arrogant United States thing. I mean, I'm definitely not a patriotic person. There is an idea of the American that I have in my head, and that is someone, and I think about the pledge, not the Pledge of Allegiance, the national anthem, and it is this, I mean, I cry sometimes when I think about the words, it's like, we did this all night long. We were the underdogs. We were the ones that made it through the night.
We have a beautiful story, but it's turned into corruption and
well, and that's the thing. What a true, in my opinion, and again, this is just my opinion. This isn't someone else's, but in my opinion, a true American is someone who rises up to meet the challenge, doesn't try and change the challenge to make it easier on them, and that's what I'm seeing all around me, right? Everybody's changing. And that's the thing. When you think of Trump always chickens out, right? That's not a part of our national anthem.
No.
Our national anthem is "You don't chicken out.
Right.
You make it through the night, and the flag is still there." Like, that is an emotional sort of thing. That is a beautiful thing. We've done this. Like, we stood fast to this challenge. And we didn't change the rules to make it easier on us. You know, rich people do that. You know, like trust fund babies do that. They want to change the rules, and that's what Trump's doing. You know, and they do that because the challenges best them, as it says in the Tao. You know, to prove yourself, you'll get challenges will best you. You know, and yeah, having to prove yourself will allow challenges to best you. That's coming from number 9. We read that this week, I think. Yeah, Sandy picked it. You know, and that's the thing. Like, you know, when you haven't earned anything, you need to prove yourself all the time. And so challenges are constantly besting you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where it's arguably where a lot of people that haven't had to, like yourself and myself, who have had problems, that it's like we rise to the challenge. We don't ask the challenge to stoop to us.
Yes, exactly.
You know, so that's what happened.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm grateful that the U.S. lost too. Then.
Absolutely. It was, you know, like I mean, it seemed like you know the term cheater's proof. You know. Yeah. So that's just, you know, it's quite all right. Like, that's Tao, like balancing the books, and you know, like there's things out there that happen, and you know, like when I was talking about, you know, this 69 invitation to conflict, it's like I was really angry about how it was all going, because it's like I want to believe, you know, like I went to watch the Spain game yesterday, and Spain won, and I was at the pub, and I had a great time. And then I could have stayed and waited and watched the U.S., but I saw the U.S. fans coming in, and they were wearing jerseys and stuff, and it just made me queasy. It's like, I can't do it. Because I'm not going to, I don't belong here, you know, because I'm going to be cheering, and that's going to be, I would be like just poking the bear. You know, like there's no reason for me to do that. I'm not really a Belgian fan. I mean, I do like some of their players and stuff, and I was excited to see them win, but it would have been strictly because of what the U.S. did, and I even felt bad because there were a couple U.S. fans that I talked to, and they were nice, and they were, you know, cheering on Spain with me and stuff. And then as I left, I said a couple things that I thought, you know, like I think it went over without them kind of realizing what I was saying. But I was just like, you know, if you're going to be this corrupt, you better win. And then I walked away, you know. So it was, you know, I wasn't really happy that I did that, and I can correct my actions moving forward, but I was okay with how I treated it.
Well, that's amazing.
So do you have a number for me today?
I would like to pick number 50. I don't know why, that just popped into my head.
Well, that's how it works. Awareness of death. Now, I want to always kind of talk about the idea that when we talk about death in the Tao, we're not necessarily talking about physical death, although that is one way that we can die. We, like, before your stroke, that Stephanie no longer exists, does she? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There is a connection to that Stephanie, but that Stephanie that's a different Stephanie. And that was during a different time. And as you grow and mature, you continue to die to who you're becoming. And so, you know, so that is one way that death can be seen. It's broad. Just keep it as a broad subject rather than a narrow subject of physical death.
Okay.
Every being is entrusted with life for a time. However, it's only a prelude to death. Some live as optimists, embracing life, others as pessimists, embracing death. Some even live in preservation, passively living, advancing towards death. The master lives aware of her appointment with death. This brings her to knowing real life. She cannot be harmed by rhinoceros or man. Her movements flow from her being. She cannot be fooled by illusion or hallucination. Her actions flow from her being. She has freed herself of all separateness, even the distinction between life and death. Do anything stand out to you?
Yes, she has freed herself from... What'd you say about that?
She has freed herself from all separateness.
That was big time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was beautiful.
So
I love every one of these readings.
They're so good, aren't they? Like she has freed herself of all separateness. You know, that idea that you're separate and there's good and there's bad and there's right and there's wrong. That's what we call duality.
Yes.
You know, like you have the good and you have the bad. But the thing is, I hope that you have a deep love for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that you understand so much that your struggles with your stroke and your struggles with getting around and your struggles the challenges that you face day to day are a part of the menagerie of things that come together to help you love yourself.
Yes.
You know, so many people in the world of arrogance and the world of privilege get to a place where they are fooled by the illusion and the hallucination of their own like petard, of their own ego.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know. And when you free yourself of that thing that makes you like, I'm separate, well, then you can be everything.
Right.
There's no need to be separate. There's no need for you to prove yourself. There's no need for you to be like everybody else. Stephanie, you dropped down. If you had anything more to say, you can always come back up. I'm going to go ahead and talk through this a little bit more if you'd like. And you're going to be coming back up. And so, yeah, every being is entrusted with life for a time. However, it's only a prelude to death. And that being, you know, even the being that Stephanie was before the stroke, right? Like, you were entrusted with that life for a time, but it was only a prelude to that change, that moment. Just like for me in my MS, you know, that moment that I became bedridden, right? That moment that happened. And then I wasn't ever going to go back to a person who I was before that.
Right.
And so I had to embrace that which was happening. I didn't have to embrace the life. I didn't have to embrace the death. And I didn't have to try and preserve anything. All I had to do was be aware that I'm not promised anything.
Yes.
And if I'm not promised anything, that's going to bring me to knowing real life. That's going to bring me to knowing this moment, because this moment is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
At this, right now. There is nothing more important than this.
Right. Hang on a second, let me get my thoughts in order. Aphasia sucks sometimes.
Yeah, no, take your time.
Thank you. Before my stroke happened to me, I was a drinking alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And after my stroke happened to me, I wasn't anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I had that death of the old me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I needed it. I really did.
Right. When I think about my MS and my getting diagnosed with MS, my diet was getting better and better and better all the time. But I would have never had the diet that I currently have, nor would I have probably ever embraced serving my mitochondria in my body, serving those energy producing organelles in those cells of mine, right? Like there was no way I would have done those things. I also would have probably continued to kick the can down the road of being an artist when that wasn't really doing it for me, and it never did.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I still make art, and I still, even in my healing process, I make art that is connected to my clients and stuff. Like, I do these portraits, right? So that's how I continue to make art. But it's not in the art field because I never had any, I never really cared about doing it for the art field. But I did love wellness, and I loved this. I loved, riddles, and I loved, like mental health, and I loved my sobriety, and I loved all of these things that I had invested in over the years, little by little by little. Right. And so when it talks about like knowing real life, getting that diagnosis, the kid who was kicking the can down the road saying, well, this must be right, like gave all that up so I could be me, But it took that. It took me getting MS to really hear and pay attention to what I was asking of myself.
Right.
Yeah. Because I wasn't asking the right questions. I knew that I wanted to do that which I am doing now, but I didn't know how. And because I wasn't being forced to change, I was never gonna. Until the moment came that it was like, it's time now. Yeah. Now, like, you don't have this time anymore. So it's time for you to wake up and start doing what you need to do.
Right.
And this is the thing that I want to do, right? Like, I think it'd be hard. I think you'd be hard pressed to find in my life anywhere that you're like, that doesn't fit. Because everything fits, no matter how paradoxical it might seem. Everything I do, from the Tao show, right? This, and, I'm thinking about doing an interview series for on mitochondria with doctors and with people that have have mitochondrial deficiencies and other things.
Oh, that would be amazing.
And it would be from this, layman for sort of, because I'm a layman ultimately. I know I'm brilliant, but I'm still, especially when it comes to science and stuff, I don't need to know about how they do things, but I do need to, kind of keep up on, and I have been keeping up on, and I look at mitochondria as Tao. I look at mitochondria as God. I look at mitochondria as a consciousness that we can tap into, and that is that feminine. And so I think that bringing all that together to be able to have those conversations, I think that would be a fun little project. And I think that all of these things, like, they are connected. It's all connected, and I wouldn't have been able to do this which I do, all my portraits and all that client work, if I didn't work so hard on my art career when I was younger. It all just evolves. This old part of me dies and I emerge new, but that is an iteration of who I am,
Right.
And when you got diagnosed, when your stroke came, changed everything.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean you die. It just means that that specific you.
That part of me died.
That part of you died. That ability for you to keep kicking the can down the road and hoping it all works out died. Right. Now it's like, now there's work to do.
Yeah.
Now it's serious. Now that this happened, I can't justify me wasting my time anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, I just fudging love you so much, Martin.
Oh,
I really do. And I love the Tao. It's amazing.
Yes.
It's truly incredible. And I'm learning a lot about myself just from listening to your podcast. I really am.
Oh, I'm so glad. And that's like that. I love that. I do think that it's a number of things. Like, yes, and I want to point out what you said. You're learning a lot by you listening.
Right.
Right. So that's your awareness. Now, I don't know, like, I'm not teaching anything. I want everybody to understand, like, what you learn, that's your business.
Right.
If you come up and talk to me, we'll have a conversation, and that might change how you're learning and change something, and that's fine and good, whatever. But I'm not trying to direct you guys into learning anything very specific. I want you guys to learn about yourselves, and ultimately, when you're done listening to this show, I want you to love yourself.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing that I want. Because if you love yourself, you're putting that ripple into the world, and you're making my world a better place. Ultimately, I want everybody to be able to follow the Tao, not etiquette. I don't want you to necessarily come up here and, be nice to me. Of course, that's nice, and I like it. But ultimately, I want you to come up here and be honest with who you are. Not even with me. If you're honest with yourself, and you present that here, everyone, this is when the Tao says, when Tao is spoken, only Tao can be heard. When you speak, only Tao can be heard. When you love yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, when you don't love yourself, and you come up and you defend yourself, and you like, that's that goes to that one verse that we were talking about, number 9. Like, when you have to prove yourself, you allow challenges to best you. Mm-hmm. But you don't have anything to prove. You have nothing to prove with me. Right. You have nothing to prove with anybody that's listening here. As long as if you can endorse what you do, come on and do it.
I truly love myself today. I really do.
I
want to thank you so much, Martin John, for everything you do for all of us. It's really amazing.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for saying that.
I love you. Have a great day.
You too, dear. Love you as well. Awareness of death, number 50. It's such a good, every being is trusted. And I remember writing this. Every being is entrusted with life for a time. However, it's only a prelude to death. There's another one that kind of talks about this. Born to do. Don't cut yourself. So along the lines of that, number 50, there's this don't cut yourself. People are not naturally afraid to die. It's what we are born to do. So number 50 starts off, every being is entrusted with life for a time. However, it's only a prelude to death. And then there's that 74, people are not naturally afraid to die. Well, they're not naturally afraid to die because it is what they're born to do, but they're been entrusted with life for a time. And they know it's only a prelude to death. This is why we come up with these stories of just like, is there, what's the purpose? The purpose is to realize this moment. I did bring up a Virginia. Did that? Oh, no. Virginia dropped off. This is Newbie Tuesday. So if you are new, I'm encouraging you guys to come up. Julie, I have Virginia who's new and she tried to get on and she's trying again. Can I? Yeah, I'll be right back. We're going to bring up Virginia and see if she is still there. Sometimes people don't want to come up. Virginia, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
I'm life is easy. We're out here doing what we do.
Yes. Well, I've been listening for a long time and I've never came up before, but I did order your book and I really enjoy it.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah. It's nice to be able to read along.
Yes.
Because it's just hard to take these riddles and shove them all in your head as audio. So.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But
well, good. What's going on with you? And thank you for coming up. I know it could be a lot to be like, okay, I'm going to be talking to the guy. I don't know what to but I'm really glad that you came up and yeah, I'm glad that you have the book and are enjoying it.
yes, I'm driving to work right now. I teach preschool, so.
Okay, so many teachers. I mean, obviously, I like
Yes.
so many of my listeners are teachers, and it's really interesting for me to know that and to, because teachers are so important.
Yeah.
And we don't appreciate them, especially. Like I remember even being a kid and thinking, how can a basketball player be making more than a teacher? Like, how is that possible? Like, I was young.
Yes.
Young and naive. Like, of
We
course.
we do it because we love our job.
Well, right. And, and you, I don't know, but I love that you guys are out there doing that work. Now, preschool,
Yes.
is that a calling or is that something you fell into? How did that come about?
Well, I guess I kind of fell into, I've been working in childcare for 38 years
Oh, wow.
and I eventually got my CDA so that I could actually teach preschool. I work for a for-profit childcare center and we do like preschool and stuff in the mornings and then the kids nap and then in the afternoon it's more just kind of free play.
Yeah.
My specialty is working with special needs kids. I love special needs.
Yeah.
I have several children in my room that are autistic.
Okay.
So it's challenging sometimes. And
That was the word that popped into my head. I was like, that's a challenge. Gee. Like several? Oh.
Yes.
That means they're interacting together. Like I don't know.
Yes.
This is not my field.
Yeah. It's hard with the autistic kids because a lot of them are nonverbal.
Right.
So they can't talk. And so it's hard, but they find ways to talk to you as long as you listen, They don't talk with their voice, but they talk in other ways.
Right.
Yeah. So
all right.
Sometimes I get depressed because it's really hard, but
what's hard?
In the end, just working with the different kids and, trying to work with them together is sometimes quite challenging, but in the end, it all works out.
Yeah. It's a tough thing, because sometimes, because you're going to be getting into those extremes when you're dealing with, mental things like, autism or physical things like, I don't know, all the things, but physical or mental or both or a combination of those things. You're going to be dealing with extremes. You're going to be dealing with extreme brilliance and insight and like Tao will present itself. However, you're also going to be dealing with deep addiction. And I don't mean addiction in the way we kind of use addiction so freely, like in terms of drugs and alcohol and stuff. I just mean pleasure or preference. you know?
Yes.
So when you have deep preference for, sugar or deep preference for potato chips, you might not have an off switch.
Yeah.
Same with anger and other things like that. All of those things are still chemically sort of derivative, right? It's just like I am driven by this chemical thing, and that could be anger, and it could be sadness, and it could be potato chips, and it could be whatever. And there's no off switch, but you have that paradox of just like, wait, this person's brilliant, and yet there's no off switch.
Yes.
And so because there's no off switch, and then we can see like in that one verse that talks about the idea of like, if you don't get to rest, you can't mature. If you don't get to integrate what you're learning, maturity escapes you,
Yeah.
Let's pick a number.
Number 10.
Number 10. Oh, number 10. Authentic action.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. That's a beautiful verse. Because the kids that you're working with, especially the ones that are on the spectrum and what have you, like they are authentic. They're
Yes.
being authentic. Now they may also have learned how to manipulate.
Yes, they can do that.
Right. No, and we want to be honest about that. We want, like, they're not innocent. Like, they don't know that they're manipulating, but they're manipulating, right? And this is the addict part, anyway, anyone in preschool is a little addict anyway. Like, that's what preschoolers are. They're just little addicts. Like, like if you go into a recovery house and it's just filled with 28-year-olds, they're all acting like 4-year-olds. They're telling you that you're wrong for not giving them a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you're hurting them. You know what I mean? And it's so what this says in authentic action, and this is great because it is about measuring, and it is about like looking and looking at the distance between things, and it's just a bunch of questions. Can you control your mind so it doesn't wander? Can you control your body so it doesn't wander? Can you endorse all that you do? Can you love everyone so as to inspire them? Can you do all this without interfering and remain unknown? Can you leave behind knowing and open yourself to understanding? Can you be like Tao and give birth without possessing? Can you be like Tao and act without expecting? Can you be like Tao and lead without dominating? If so, it would be considered great.
Wow.
Did any word or question stand out to you more than anything else?
Oh goodness, there's so much in there. Probably like, doing things, I don't exactly how it was worded, and not expecting anything.
Yeah. Can you be like down act without expecting?
Yeah, because like working with special needs kids, you do a lot for them, but they don't ever acknowledge it, and you don't expect them to, because
because you've learned that. You've learned not to expect.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is still learned. Yeah.
A lot of times they don't understand, but then there's other times that they do. Like I have a rule in my classroom because we're state regulated, and so they always have to wear their shoes. Right. And for the special needs kids, it's really hard sometimes. And so I just had made a rule a long time ago that if you don't have your shoes on, you can't play with toys, and they learn it really fast. Like they can be in my room just for a couple days and, because I'll say, put your shoes on so you can play with toys. And the other day I had a mom and she's like, she understands that. And I was like, well, yeah, it took a little bit, of reminding her to put them back on. But then she does because she knows that's what we have to do to play with toys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the, and this is the, this is, It reminds me of back in COVID when everyone was saying like, I don't want to wear a mask and I should still be able to go to the restaurant. And it's like, no, right? You have the right to not wear a mask, but you don't have the right to go to a restaurant without the mask. You know what I mean? Like, it is like, you can't play with toys if you take off your shoe. And the thing is you don't have a leg to stand on. This is just how it is. Like, no one's demanding you wear a mask. What we're demanding is, what we're telling you is like, you can't eat here if you don't. Like, that's a different thing. You have the choice to not wear it. Don't wear it. But then go cook your dinner. Just like if you don't want to. And this is, can you be like Dow and act without expecting? Like, you're acting in terms of like, I don't want to do this thing, or I don't want to put on my shoes. Okay. Don't expect to play with toys then. Like, this is absolutely, and it's like, but I want to play with toys. All right, put your shoes on. And it's actually pretty simple. This is where like, and to engage, for you to engage in that same way, where you can do something but not expect them. Like, because if they take their shoes off and say, well, I'm not going to play with toys.
That's okay.
That's still not okay. Right?
Well, no, not
because
really.
Because your state mandate, right?
Yes. And it's a safety issue so that if there's a fire in the building, they can get out safely.
Yeah. No, of course. I recognize that. But the thing is your logic doesn't cover everything. This idea, like, put your shoes on, and it's just like, okay, well, how about you can shove your toys, like, right? Like, and I want my shoes off. And then it's like, uh-oh, luckily children want to play with toys.
Yes, that's true.
Because this is, so that's the wonderful thing about this number 10, is asking these questions, and it's not expecting you to be able to do them all, because it says at the end, if so, it would be considered great. If you can do this, it would be considered great. But what's wonderful about this verse is when you look at this verse, like, when you look at this line, can you be like Dow and act without expecting? What we come up with is actually, no. I do have expectations. And they're buried in there. And the questions that come up in this verse are there for us to ponder and to be like, I do have expectations. I have expectations that every child that's going to come through this door is going to want to play with toys. And that's the way I'm going to get them to keep their shoes on.
Yeah.
The moment you come up with a child that doesn't care that he can't play with toys because taking his shoes off is more important, you're going to be challenged. And to know that you have that expectation before that challenge comes is just a gift.
Yeah.
And all of these questions, they're not to be just answered and be like, yes, I don't have expectations. They're there to ponder.
Mm-hmm.
They're there to say, well, where do I have these little expectations? Where do they exist?
Yeah.
And when I can see those, all of a sudden, I see the crack in the hull. It's like, that's where the water's coming in.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can deal with those ahead of time. We have these other verses that talk about, you can stop something before it's grown big. And that's the thing. Like, when you have this expectation, and the expectation is for this specific thing is that you expect every child to want to play with toys more than take off their shoes.
Yeah.
That expectation may be challenged one day. I'm not saying that it will be, but I'm just saying it may be.
Though.
What's that?
I said it definitely could be.
Right. And that's not about you being a better teacher. It's about you being a better you. And just recognizing where those expectations are so that when it happens, you knew it was going to happen one day, whatever. Yes. And it's just good to know ourselves. It's good to know. And that's what this is. And is this action that's coming from me authentic, or is it being manipulated. And it is being manipulated by the state. And you are forced to do these things that you may not even want to do with these children. You may want the children to be barefoot so that they can be comfortable.
Yes.
But then you are being manipulated by your job and other things like that. So you have to abide certain things. And we understand that. But questioning those expectations and things, good idea. Now you dropped off. You can come back up and just wrap this up if you want. And then Julie, if you're still hanging out, I'd love to rub that Spain wind in your face a little bit. Virginia.
Yes. Well, I just wanted to say thank you very much, because I listen, especially when I'm driving to work in the mornings, and it just starts my day out really good. So,
I'm so glad. Yeah.
So I finally decided it's time to come up. So
yeah, well, I hope you enjoyed that, and
I did,
and got a little out of it, and then you can take that with you as you go into school. My best to you and your class today. Hopefully, everyone keeps their shoes on.
Oh yes, hopefully.
All right, dear. Have a wonderful day. Love you.
You
Bye-bye.
too, Martin John. Thank you.
I will take you off if you. Yeah, there we go. Julie, if you're around, you can come up. But thank you, Virginia, for coming up. Yeah, this authentic action, number 10, all these questions aren't there to just say yes. Can you control your mind so it doesn't wander? Like, every time I read this to somebody, I mean, the knee-jerk reaction is yes. But we can't just skip actually thinking about the question and actually trying to get to the root of what it is. Because even in the end, this is, I know I wrote this, but I know I wrote this translation, but in the end of this verse, it's like, if so, it would be considered great. Not a big deal, but like, it's not expecting you to be able to do this. There is this in that line, if so, right? Just starting with if so. If that were the case, if you could do all of these things, if you can do any of these things, it would be considered great. And when Virginia was talking, it was the one about expecting that stood out to her. So that's the one we focused on. For you, it might be a different one. For you, it might be, can you endorse all that you do? And the thing is as you read these, when you revisit 10 at some other point, it might not be that same line that stands out to you. It might be a different line. And if it's a different line, which one? And when you figure that out, then you get to figure out what you're dealing with. What is on your mind today? It's so important to be able to, when we read these, to hone in sometimes on the one thing that stands out, the thing that can you love everyone so as to inspire them? Like, I'm just looking at that line right now. It's like, well, why am I looking at that line? Can you love everyone as to inspire them? You don't love everyone for your own benefit. You don't love people so that you can get something out of it. Can you love everyone so as to inspire them? No matter what they're going through. This is like when I went to those recovery houses and told them, you all can go out and drink today, and I don't care. Because I don't care about your addiction. I care about you. No matter where your addiction is or how you're struggling with it or whatever, I still care about you. And it's caring about you that means everything to me. And so when I read this line, can you love everyone so as to inspire them? I love them without limit. And if they go out and drink, I'm not going to judge them. I'm also not going to sit around and get abused by them because they want to drink. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to be strong in my convictions, and I'm going to allow them the space to do what they want to do. And so when I look at these questions in this number 10, I can't, every single question can be taken individually. We could literally just read one of these a day. Can you control your mind so it doesn't wander? And think about all the times that my head just goes off into story and starts, planning out my next day, my panda planner, my, all the checklists that I make and stuff. Not that I do that overindulgently, but sometimes it just, I've been doing my panda planner for almost 3 months. I got another week or two, maybe a little bit more, maybe 3 before it's done. And I'm already starting to be tired of it. And it's like, but I want to get to the end. So it's really nice sometimes to overdo it just a little bit, so that when you stop doing it, you're like, yeah, this is a nice break. So I'm pushing myself to continue doing the panda planner so that I can, even if I don't have a lot to plan. I do today and yesterday because I'm traveling. I'll be driving all day tomorrow. Right after Tao of the Day, I'll be going and traveling to Virginia. I'll be doing Tao of the Day from Virginia on Thursday and Friday. And then probably Monday, unless we leave on Sunday. Helping drive my mom and her husband out there. I wanted to go out and visit my sister, and it just became a family trip. And so that'll be nice. All right, everybody. Again, Newbie Tuesday. Thank you, Virginia, for coming up. I really appreciate always getting a new guest and chatting. And number 10, wonderful verse. And for you, can you be like Tao and act without expecting? And it's nice to point out where those expectations are in our life, because we can question them and we can maybe put them aside. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm Martin John. This is Tao of the Day. I'm here Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Central Time. And, if you guys benefit from the work that I do here, check out the links in my profile. You can support me and the show by through Venmo or buy me a coffee. You can also pick up a copy of my Tao Te Ching through those links. And anything else? Yeah. Life is easy. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.